Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child-trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. I mean, seriously, they're just awful. And my very special guest joining me today for the very first time is Jonathan Wright with a W. And he's a host on the One Great Work Network. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We don't know each other, but we're going to frickin' find out, aren't we? So, Jonathan, without further, as they say in Israel, adieu, would you please tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do?
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Vinny. I do appreciate it. You are a bit of a legend as far as all of this goes, and this came completely out of the blue for me. So very cool. I'm happy to be here. Myself is a bit of a truth seeker and now sayer. Just been digging for stuff for about 30 years. Well, maybe not quite that long, but almost about 26 now, and over time, just finally compiled enough stuff that I felt like it was worth having a voice, it was worth speaking my mind because it wasn't just drivel. And so I took Mark's True Media course last year and got myself invited to be on the One Great Work Network, which was kind of cool. It kind of blew me away a little bit, but that lit a fire under me so I could at least get used to the idea of utilizing the skills he'd given me, and started putting that stuff out there. And now I like to share a little bit of truth on whatever kind of realm that we happen to be delving into in this mind, and I share it with everybody. I love the idea of natural law, and so beyond that, actually living in harmony with nature, and trying to make that the example. To show to that's really how you teach, is by example. So I figure that's kind of that's me summed up in a little bit of a nutshell.
And the obvious question is like, why? Why do people start doing these things? And I was having a conversation with naturopath David Holden, who sponsors the show, last night. And he's like saying, how can we wake these people up? How can we get them to stop trusting the government? And I said, well, it's simple, really. You call the police on that person and you tell them that person's got like 20 kilos of heroin or something like that in their home. And then when the police bust through their door, tear apart their house, and don't find anything, and don't even say that they're sorry, and then prosecute them anyway, it'll be very easy for to talk to them at that point about how untrustworthy the government is.
I agree. I think that would do it for most people.
I mean, you need this shock value, It's called shock and awe for a reason. Once you realize how big and dangerous and deceptive and immoral the system is, and you have to see it with your own eyes. It has to lay its hands upon you before you're really willing to accept the nature of not only what you're dealing with, but what it is you're supposed to be doing about it.
Yep. And that's kind of where I'm kind of drifting in my own reality into a little bit more of the what to do about it. And that's kind of where that's what's been preoccupying a lot of my time lately. I haven't been as prolific with my posting and videos as I once was over the winter, for sure. But I've gotten out in my yard, and I've been put into a situation where this isn't ideal for me. I'm on a golf course, and so there's a lot of neighbors, and there's a lot of mindset that's just not in line with where I'm at. But I've mentioned what I'm doing with my land, which is basically creating a food forest, and a lot of the people seem to be relatively on board with that. So that's kind of nice. And I figure that's one of the easiest ways to actually help wake people up, is to show them how, wow, I'm actually turning this big yard into a forest of food for the sake of helping people when the food situation really truly becomes a crisis.
Well, as if it's not a crisis already, but let's talk about food foresting for a moment here. What exactly is that, and what do you got? What do you got planned?
So, food foresting is basically a permaculture, okay, and it would be done with where you are in the country, so or the world, I guess, and it would take your geographic location and what your native species are, and you basically, instead of creating a yard full of ornamentals that require watering and trimming and disposal, you put in types of plants that all work in symbiosis with one another, and one plant puts something back in the soil that this plant needs, and they work. And when you get, a lot of the food foresting that I've read about and witnessed their videos have 2 and 3 and 4 and 500 species all in a really small, in like a yard. And so they all work with one another, and it basically makes it so that you have very little work to do, other than picking fruit, nuts, vegetables, and all, depending on what type of soil and where you're at. Different things can be used for ground cover that will keep weeds out. Different things can be used to hold water in an area where that would then give this stuff surrounding it more ability to grow. There's all sorts of science and understanding to it that I don't quite fully have, but there is
Sounds kind of like a biological reverse engineered Asimov cascade. Kind of like. An Asimov cascade is when one system's built on top of another, and if you destroy one system, down the chain it goes, and before you get total chaos. And
right.
Permaculture is ostensibly the antithesis to that, where you have multiple support rings and rings of it. So every time one thing falls out, other things come in to help it and bring it back. And so therefore you don't experience a cascade. This is how nature works. It's an up and down cycle rather than a pyramid-shaped collapse.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I put in a couple of garden boxes. And in the process of doing that, I had found a channel on Telegram and on YouTube that was Food Forest Abundance. And I just kind of watched their videos and looked at some of the different people who had kind of food forested out their yards. And I was like, wow, it's not a lot of work. I think that's the big misconception. It seems, you talk about a forest, it seems like it would just be nothing but work. But the videos I've seen and the routes that these guys recommend going, it doesn't seem like it's that much. To do what I'm going to do is going to be a lot of work because my yard is old, and all the ornamentals that are around the house and stuff like that have been there forever. So the soil needs to be completely dug up. It needs to be completely revitalized. And I have the stuff to do all that. I just need to get out there with my pickaxe and my rake and put in the sweat and the blood. Truly.
Well, you got to activate the physical parts of the body. It's like that movie Bruce Almighty, where Bruce meets God, and God's like doing janitorial work. He's just cleaning stuff up and packing stuff away and whatnot, and saying that some of the happiest people in the world are the ones who come home at the end of the day stinking to high heaven.
Mm-hmm. There's no that I hadn't found anything truer than that when I started learning carpentry. And I didn't start learning carpentry until later in life. I was much older, and you'd be worn out at the end of the day. We weren't just doing carpentry; we were doing all sorts of stuff. But basically, and there's nothing truer than being completely worn out and stinking to high heaven at the end of the day and feeling completely satisfied. So.
Well, because you got something to show for it, like for instance, if you and I were just having this conversation, And we were just having this conversation. At the end of it, what have we got to walk away with it? You know, ostensibly maybe a few pieces of tidbits and wisdom. Maybe you might change, or maybe I might change, or something of that nature. But we haven't actually accomplished anything in and of that moment. It's not a creation process. It's a learning process. Whereas me, I kind of am firmly in the creation process for now 15 years. And so every conversation that I have that could actually be of benefit to me is quite likely to be of benefit to the audience. You record them, you live stream them, and then at the end of that conversation, you send a copy of that file to the person you're interviewing so they can upload it to their platforms. And then you've actually really created something that can help more people than just the people on the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, that's fantastic. So I guess that would be kind of the why you've done this. You've been doing this for quite some time, isn't that true?
Since 2008. Pulled out one of my old the first DVD I ever made the other day and watched it with Rebecca, and it was just like this young Vinny Eastwood going out there pretending to be Alex Jones. We will not accept your tyranny, you know.
Oh, that's awesome! But that's it. That's how. Is that why you were inspired? Were you thinking Alex Jones when you were going out and doing that?
It was like it was it was a quadruple. It was Bill Hicks, Alex Jones, Michael C. Rupert, and the Love Police, Charlie Veitch at the time, you know, and maybe to a greater or lesser extent, Luke Rudkowski's We Are Change. It's kind of like if you're a film buff, and you know the names of the producers when they come up, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you're going to want to get your hands dirty. You're going to want to get in there and start doing it for yourself. And that's what I did, and it was really hard and kind of thankless and also at times even dangerous. But I wasn't doing it for fame and fortune and just, you know, having a happy life and stuff like that. I did it and still do it. Principally because of a fear of getting exterminated and enslaved by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery. You know, like that's where I want to get to people on a generalized, you know, agreement level. We have a generalized agreement that we don't want to get enslaved or exterminated by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery. You know, that's it. That's the cornerstone of my belief structure, generally speaking. You know, my life's work, as it were. You know,
I like that cornerstone. Scumbaggery is no good.
But I've got, you know, things on my bucket list, you know, and one of them includes getting exterminated as a camp, because I'm pretty sure that, you know, New Zealand's such a small place in the activism circles that as soon as we all get taken to camps and whatnot, as soon as they march me in there, half the crowd will go like, oh my God, it's Vinny's here. It'll be like our family has come back together, you know, and
right.
And then we get shoved into the ovens or whatever apparatus that they happen to be using at the time. But you know, it'll be fun at the time.
It will. You know, and just to digress just for a moment and go back, your list was a little smaller because the Bill Hicks and the Alex Jones, for any of you really good conspiracy theorists out there, you know that's the same guy.
I mean, like, I looked into those kind of things, but the one thing that didn't actually gel with that is that Bill Hicks and Alex Jones were at Waco, Texas during the Branch Davidian thing with the ATF. I mean, they weren't talking to each other or meeting out with each other, but there's separate footage of them there, so it literally can't be the same guy. So,
I know. It's funny. I'm a bit of an Alex Jones apologist, I suppose. I don't know what else you'd call me. Like, I don't like defend the guy like totally, but like all I usually hear from people are just slamming on him to a point where I'm like, I don't think you're saying the right stuff. But yeah, I've had a lot of people that like just find out about Alex and they go, did you know he's Bill Hicks? And I'm like, I've been listening to him for 17 years. I've heard that before. You know what I mean? Like, look into it a little further. That's all I can say. And they go, no, really, look at it. And I'm like, I have. I've looked at it a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And that's the problem as well. You know, you've got people who are just coming into this now. All right. And all of this is new to them. When you were a child, and you went to do something for the first time, like riding your bike or going to school for the first time or something. All this was new, and you made all these sorts of little mistakes, and you maybe hurt yourself or something of that nature, or you might freak out, blah, 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 blah. And the same thing is happening now. You're coming from childhood into adulthood. Adults know what the hell is going on in the world. Children don't. All right.
Yep.
And I think it's the fault of adults that the children don't know this kind of stuff, because they should be brought up with it, from an early age. Because it's like, if you grow up to a certain degree, trusting government or planning your life, your kids, your car, your mortgage, your future, that kind of thing, your business. And then nobody told you that it's all completely undermined by a false system of all natures. That's a huge grief process that you've got to then go through. Had you, on the other hand, parents who were actually awakened and had brought you up from a young age, just the other day, I taught my daughter how to say Rothschild and Rockefeller, 2 years old, Rothschild, Rockefeller, so cute.
That's fun.
And this has to become kind of part of your daily life, so that by the time you actually are old enough to do something about it, you don't have to spend several years researching and grieving for the loss of your previous perceived existence, and you can just get to work.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see somebody raised on the truth as best as we know it, versus Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and all that stuff, and we do that for the kids. Like, let's literally, I just would like to know, what a society of people that we're raised on. We really are trying to tell you the best we can, the truth as soon as we can, so that you can hopefully, because see, here's where a lot of adults and people that I've come across have a problem with growing, because the children should be the ones that end up teaching you. You teach them as best you can, and it shouldn't take very long for them to outdo you and then come back at you with, hey, guess what? You were kind of wrong here, and I'm going to show you this. Adults don't like that, especially when it comes from younger people. And so it makes it extremely hard for them to go, for a child or a younger person to come up to an older person and be like, everything you think is all wrong. So there's a very right way to do that. To explain to people that you've believed a lot of wrong stuff, and so again, just to teach kids from the get-go the truth, as rough and weird and hard. Yeah, no, it's not like that. It's like this. I think it would be an amazing thing. So that's cool that your child is getting that right off the bat, like Rockefeller, Rothschild.
Yeah, well, I got the idea off of interviewing Paul Tapetti. His band was famous around the same time Nickelback got famous, and because he sang about political issues and things like that, his career dried up and that kind of thing. And I asked him, when was the first time you were thinking about this? And he goes, well, I remember distinctly when I was like a real little child, and I was in the back of the car in my baby seat, and my parents were saying Rothschilds and Rockefellers, the bankers and all of this kind of stuff. And I remember as a baby just sitting there, just playing with the word in my mouth, Rothschild. Jordan Maxwell told me something similar as well. His parents talking about things when he was a baby, and it's interesting to note. It's like, I'm not sure if it's a wall or it's more like a tree where you have roots when you're born. Right? Everything that's ever happened to you throughout your entire bloodlines, past lives, whatever, that's all in there. That's in the roots. It's below the surface. And then each experience you have helps your little tree to grow a little bit. And we're kind of upside down plants, humans are. So our roots are in our head and they extend out into the universe, and our hands and legs are our fronds, right? And so each moment that we exist, our experience ends 1 minute at a time, and our trunk gets a little bit more solid, but our extension out, where those branches go, what they connect with, it all changes every day. And I think that's the reason why we remember traumatic memories very, very vividly. and good memories, we forget about them until we're reminded, is that your brain tells you that that's a bad memory. You want to stay away from those experiences, and it helps you to forget those good experiences to motivate you to have more of them every day.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. That's very cool. Yeah, I try to live more and more in the now. That's something that I've been working on. Taking care of my mom, and that's been very hard. It's coming up on 2 years. It'll be 2 years in a couple months, and it's been a crazy 2 years. But I've learned to just not try to worry about what's coming too much, and not, I don't have really time to think about the past a whole lot. So I just try to live in the right now as much as I can, and that's it's hard to do, actually, harder to do than some people might think, and you do find yourself more grounded though, and things can kind of just go and pass by you, pass through you without really causing a lot of strife as much. Being in the now, I've found.
Well, it's ruminating on the past that really is the killer, because there's things that you can't change, and so therefore you can't control them. So what you do is you ruminate on them in a vain effort to regain some kind of control over something you cannot. And that's what causes us to be mentally ill. That's what causes us into cycles of depression and things of that nature. Thinking about the past or the future, both of which we can't change or in the future's case, haven't happened yet. And then when you come back to the present moment, I'm sitting in front of a computer, I'm safe in my office. And all that stress just kind of goes away because you remember where you are, you remember what you're doing.
Yep.
But it's hard to remember, especially when you're in that cycle.
It is. It is. And it's easy to it's easy to let emotions take you off, of course, So that's yet another kind of trying to just goose fabra my way through things, So it's working well. And being out and outside, the key to life at this point is go barefoot everywhere you can. Obviously, on the roads isn't going to be an ideal situation, but as much earth as you can connect with via real skin is your best bet, because you truly do get grounded, and takes a lot of the pain of working away. So like all the, I don't know, just any of the pain you would have, just regular stuff, from working all day. Because I work out in my yard a lot, and the being barefoot really truly does help. It helps physically, mentally, spiritually. Your emotions you truly ground yourself. So that's something that I would highly recommend to people. Even if it's a matter of coming home from work and finding a plot in your yard and taking your socks and shoes off and sitting your feet there and listen to the birds or read a book, but give yourself a half an hour with your feet on actual real ground, and it will make a huge difference. Make a huge difference.
Yeah, grounding. Down to earth. There's a reason why people are always saying that, because you're open and you're in tune with the resonant frequency of the earth, as it were. And nowadays, especially with, in this office, not so much, because we had it all cleared up. Right? A guy came in with an oscilloscope, which gave some very serious measurements, ironically. And we found out we can go in 40,000 microwatts or 40,000 milligauss, and that's just radiant in the air. So we're like, whoa, okay, let's see what's causing that. Turn off the Wi-Fi on the modem and hardwire everything into the internet. Still 40,000. All right, well, it's not just that then. Let's take off the wireless mice and the keyboards. Still 40,000. Let's turn the Bluetooth off of the computers. There we go. We're down to 4 microwatts, 4 milligauss in this thing. 0 is recommended. Now, what this means is that every Bluetooth device that we had here, that was like 4 of them, and plus the Bluetooth connectors to the computers that we had there, that's another 2, so that's 6 sources, plus the Wi-Fi from the router, that's 7, all right? And each of them were pulling out 40,000 milligauss. Now, this stuff can affect your body, and it does. Some people can't feel it. Most people can't feel it for that matter, but it does affect you nonetheless. And so when we got rid of all of those things, you can notice changes, really significant changes, even in sleeping patterns, that when you're trying to go to bed, if there's Wi-Fi on, your skin, the hairs on your skin, they interpret those Wi-Fi radiation signals as light, and light wakes the body up. It stops it from being able to sleep properly. So got to turn that off at night. Now you think about, like for example, frequencies, how many there are. How many cell phones are there in your place? Are you in an apartment building? How many individual Wi-Fi things are within range of you and whatnot? We're all being cooked constantly, and most people don't know this thing and what it does. I mean, it's probably a contributing factor in the massive infertility, the huge amount of depression, suicide, stress, insomnia, organ failures, and things of that nature. And we're bathing in this. Now, let's say, for example, getting health as a priority. That also includes having a healthy knowledge of the infinite threats that the New World Order, for lack of a better term, has put there specifically to have these effects. And so I haven't done like a whole bunch of my health work, you know, like when you've got to really look into your diet and you've got to really look into your meditation and do your yoga and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I haven't really gotten into that. And I have, on the other hand, gotten fluoride out of my water, gotten my gotten the radiation out of my home, and gotten toxic people out of my life, and so on and so forth. And you know, eventually, I'm gonna have to be forced to do it. I'm gonna have to be forced to work on my health, and that's the thing, because if you don't have your freedom, you can't enjoy your health, and if you don't have your health, you know, vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, what about, I guess, I don't know, man, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. I would think you would be like almost like a bit of a health ranger. How come? How come so long before deciding to dive into being healthy?
I mean, I've lost, what's the pounds? I've lost like 50 pounds in the last 2 years.
That's good.
And I got into doing mixed martial arts training and that kind of thing. Cool. And I've taken, you know, the amount of takeaways and things like that I used to have out of there. So I wouldn't say that I'm not into the health. What I'm doing is I'm trying to do what I've done with the other things, which is get all the bad stuff out, step by step by step, little baby steps, and then get the good stuff in. So, you know, trying to create a new healthy lifestyle and that kind of thing. I'm not there yet, but progress is being made.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I've got a lot, dude. I've been doing it for a long time, and I don't really talk about it a whole lot on my own personal stuff that I put out, maybe a little bit, but I do end up talking about it when I come on people's shows, because it's something I do know quite a bit about, and I've been doing it for quite a while. And so I talked about it with Crypt Rick. Do you know him? Have you?
He was supposed to be. I was trying to get him on the show today, but he might be on tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. So anyway, yeah, he's a good dude, and I've talked to him, and yeah. So, and like I would tell him, there's a drink out there. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's called Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and it comes from a company called Longevity.
Yeah.
And that is going to be like, if you really, when you buckle down, like if you get their Healthy Start Pack, which is like the vitamin mineral drink, which also has all of your amino acids. It also has cofactors. It has probiotics, a lot of other things. And then you get a calcium magnesium that goes with it as an additional, and then you get essential fatty acids. Now, those are your three main target points to hit to get all 90 essential nutrients. And so, like you said, as important as it is to get the 90 into you, it's equally as important to stop putting the poison in. And so, because I used to sell the longevity stuff when I first found out about it 12 years ago or 13 years ago now. And that was the hardest thing to explain to people. It wasn't so much to get people to buy it, because they were like, yeah, it's not that expensive overall, really. And that sounds good. I understand why the farming practices have reduced the amount of nutrition in the soil. So even the best food doesn't have any nutrition. So you kind of have to supplement if you want to get, all this stuff. But boy, you tell them they can't eat fried foods, shouldn't, and just a few other things, and I don't want to do this health thing anymore. So it is what it is. But I'm glad to hear that you are kind of taking that into your, step by step, because that's what it is. And once you start really going at it, you feel so much better that it makes it impossible to not keep going.
Well, I can only hope. Because, people have told me, hey, Vinny, does it feel good not having those extra 30 kilos on you, or 50 pounds or whatever? And I say, no, I actually still feel like shit. No. I mean, because ultimately I think it's, I just had a really terrible bed. When you get when your bed doesn't work properly for you, and you get the back aches and the hip aches and the shoulder aches and all of that kind of stuff. It was just killing me, man. And I didn't realize until recently, when we got a new bed, like how much of a freaking difference it makes.
Mm-hmm. I had that same epiphany. Just about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now, and I really thought, like, what's wrong with me? Like, I mean, I was trying to think, how does everything hurt so bad from what I was doing at work? Because I was doing construction, so it made sense that I'd be sore, but not like that. I was just like, what is wrong with me? And I literally just had something. I was making a lot more money, and I was being an appropriate natural law student and giving Uncle Sam the appropriate amount of my money. And so since I was doing that, it afforded me the ability to buy a nice bed. And I'm still sleeping on that same bed, and I got one of the ones with the adjustable frame, and I put it in the sub-zero position, where it's like, whatever, the grandpa sleeping in the rocker position, and I don't move at all at night. I mean, at all. I fall asleep in a position, and I wake up, and I'm in that exact same position, and it's possibly one of the most important things. I couldn't believe how much of a difference it made to get a good night's sleep. Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, who would have thought that prioritizing what you spend a third of your life on would be an important decision for how your life works out? And I think maybe that sleeplessness is such a huge pandemic in and of itself at the moment, man. People are always stressed. They're always on taking these energy drinks and things of that nature. They're on their phones before they go to bed, arguing with people online, and then they sit there and they roll back and forth about these arguments and stuff, and they don't get any freaking sleep. Have a look at all the side effects of sleep deprivation, man. They're not good, even a little bit. Like, if you lose 1 hour's sleep on one night, your immune system stops working for 24. It just stops working for a whole day until you get a good night's sleep in there. Why do you think the shift workers get colds and flus and stuff like that all the time? They're not getting their proper Z's, bro. And this is our proper connection to the what might be called God consciousness, higher consciousness, and that kind of thing, to prioritize staying up and watching something more on Netflix when you're already tired, to rob yourself of your connection with your higher consciousness, doesn't sound like a good bargain that is being struck here, and it's affecting so many people.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yep, and that's another. Your sleep is fantastically important. It's one of the things where I've told people, because there's a lot of really good sleep aids that are natural out there, and all sorts. And I've found that what I've told people when they're like, okay, I'm having a hard time sleep, try magnesium. Just try magnesium by itself at night. You do need to supplement with calcium if you're going to do magnesium too, because ions come in pairs. Any of the periodic table elements that you want to supplement with, they come in pairs. So you'll get a deficiency in magnesium if you just take calcium, and vice versa. But you take them independently, like calcium in the morning, magnesium at night. And if you do that, I've found people have had better results sleeping more soundly and going to sleep sooner just with magnesium at night, rather than the melatonin and the valerian and the tryptophan and whatever else fantastic natural sleep aids there might be. Those do work, but you get used to them and they stop working. And if you just have magnesium, which at least 95%, probably more like 98% of the population is magnesium deficient. Unless you're specifically supplementing with magnesium, you're most likely deficient. And you'll find that the restless leg syndrome thing from that happens at night, and the tossing and turning, and the high temperature, and a lot of the problems that come at night that make you not sleep come from a lack of magnesium.
I mean, often I find that not drinking anything before going to bed sounds like a very, very good idea, because otherwise you're just going to you're going to have to get up like 15 times in the night to piss, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's freaking annoying, you know.
And it's a good thing to do if you need to get up for some reason to go do some subversive, fight the New World Order stuff. Wake up at 3 a.m. to go meet someone somewhere.
Well, that was the Native American philosophy behind it. How do you get up real early in the morning to go hunt the buffalo or go fishing or something like that? Drink a lot of water before you go to bed.
And that's right. Yep. I don't even need to drink a lot of water. I swear I have a pregnant woman's bladder in this body. Because I wake up every single night. It doesn't matter. And it's always at about 4 or 5 in the morning. So I have about 4 or 5 hours before I wake up and my body's like, medical emergency is about to happen. You got to get up. So I do. I always go right back to sleep. But
well, I generally go back to sleep. But the problem is now I've kind of realized that what my circadian rhythm is really telling me is that I need to go to bed around like between 8 and 9 o'clock at night, just when you start getting tired, and you could stay up and you could do something, but you really shouldn't. And then you go to bed, and by the time it's 4 or 5 a.m. when you get woken up to take a wiki leak, that's actually when you're supposed to start your day. And, you can get half a day's work done before anybody else has even gotten to work.
I know, it's crazy. Since I've been going out in the yard and getting out there at about 8, and then you get 3 hours of work done, and it's not even noon yet, and you're like, wow, I've really crushed the day, and it's not even noon. This is fantastic.
Yeah, well, this is how the elite psychopaths basically run the world. It was interesting, a little study that they only need like between 2 and 4 hours sleep at night. All right, psychopaths, like there's no higher consciousness to recharge. There's no dreams to relay or experience or something like that. It's just a pure physical charge time for their vessel.
Wow.
And in so doing, when they're awake, and they are working really, really hard, 2 o'clock in the morning, hustling.
Wow. Yeah, I never really thought of that. And that's crazy that they are so different than regular people on so many levels too, and because that's really who's in charge or who has gotten themselves into the positions of power are psychopaths.
Yeah.
And,
it's like what was it? Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying something like that. Is that some people are like, "Oh, Arnold, I don't know if I can work that hard. I need to get some good sleep." And his advice was, "Sleep faster."
Yeah. That sounds about right.
I mean, like, seriously, this whole concept that we're getting here, and like anxiety, I think, is a constant thing, because then we're not actually at rest when we're at rest, and not even at night, but during the day. So you're constantly on edge. You're getting all these notifications, and this is like, oh, they're killing you this way, they're killing you that way. Just like, turn those notifications off, baby. Freaking heck, you can kill yourself. It's just that constant stress and constant reminder of how messed up everything is. Yeah, but look at your beautiful baby. Look at this wonderful thing, artwork that you're creating today. Look at the so on and so forth that you're building. That kind of thing. And the digital platforms have really done a number on people, because they're using such advanced technology that it appears like magic. You can magically get people to abandon even the most basic human needs.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely something that's come along. This I try to do a half and half of focus on the bad and how scary it all is, because that's definitely real stuff. And then, without letting that weigh you down too much, use that as a motivator to, well, then here's a solution. Here's something we can be doing. Here's how we have to look at things. I just had a friend who called me up, and it's crazy because I was in I've been in this situation that she's in now several times in my life because I was an alcoholic. But she's like, she had a car accident. She was moving from Oregon to South Carolina, driving. All her stuff was being shipped. She got into a car wreck in Vegas. They wanted to total her car. They didn't total her car. They wouldn't ever tell her an answer. She was just floating out in Vegas. It's like 115 degrees. So she finally got an airplane and made it out here. And now she's like not got a house. She was supposed to come out and buy a house. She's not. She's in a hotel. Like, anyway, it just chaos. Nothing worked out the way she wanted it to. And I was like, well, to me, that says you need to kind of look at your situation and maybe realize that because then the way she was talking to me was like, well, I used to do this and I could do that again. And I could do this again and I could go back and do that. And I was like, yeah, but what you're doing is digressing back to the old ways that because they're comfortable and safe and that they work, but they're miserable and you hate them. I was like, why not know that, again, these negative things that we've been talking about, and this stuff's all real. Now, for your future, what you're going to envision, because none of your plans have really worked out, just kind of be happy to float. I know that's hard to do. It's easier to say, but just float for a little bit and focus on what the world is going to look like if you get your way, right? Like independent of the electric grid, independent of the water system, independent of the grocery stores for food, and think that way now that you're floating, you're literally floating. Use this to find the best place to land. And I don't know, she seemed like she liked hearing that, but she didn't like hearing it. I mean, it wasn't like the comforting, it'll be okay. It's like, no, it's going to be rough and it's probably going to suck for a while, but this will be a good thing to get you in the right place. And again, it's just kind of that duality of the negativity and then the good at the same time. It's like, I'm floating and my car's totaled and I don't have a house. It's like, but at the same time, you don't have a house or a car to deal with. And so now you can like look at, life as like as an empty canvas. How do you want to paint it? So.
Yeah. Well, the Chinese character for crisis is the same character for opportunity, as it were. And so even in times of war or enslavement and economic destruction and stuff like that, there's opportunity there for those people who are willing to just open up and go, abundance. And you can bring it in. All right, but you have to believe that it's there, and you have to stop focusing on scarcity. That's the whole idea why diamonds are so expensive. There's oodles of diamonds. They'd be like $20 a kilo or something like that if everybody knew how many frickin' diamonds they were. But they've just bottlenecked the supply. The same with the petrol, and the same with consciousness. They've just bottlenecked the supply of all the good stuff that you can really get access to and prevent you from living a happy, healthy, and productive life. And so if your consciousness is based on scarcity, it's not going to give you an abundant life that makes you happy or enables you to change.
Yep. So what do you think the next like 3 years looks like for the planet?
Well, we just got the statistics out today that the death rate in Australia is like 20% up. That means 20% more people died this year than people who died last year. So, we're looking at a lot of death, I think. A lot. And everybody will be touched by it. No family will be immune to it. And that means that the world is going to be grieving. They're going to be in denial. They're going to be angry. They're going to be trying to bargain with their masters. They're going to get depressed when they realize they can't. And only a few people going through this process will accept it and accept the burden that is upon them. And a small and determined group of individuals will show examples of a way forward that is much better, and they will be persecuted, and they will be hated, and they won't be supported, and some of them will die, and eventually it'll sow the seeds of a better society that will come out. And that's what I think is going to happen over the next 3 years.
Cool. That's fantastic. I like that. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, I like to be cynical, because
Well, it's cynical, but like you said, man, you finished it with, I mean, that sounds about right. It's going to be rough, man. It's not going to be a good next 3 years in a lot of ways, but like you said, the crisis and the opportunity kind of come together at the same time. It's like, it's a cliche, and again, these are fun things to say, harder to do, but like be the change that you want to see in the world. It's like, so that means you're gonna actually have to like do things different, and
well, they say,
starting inside here and then going and putting that out and being like, it's different. I'm doing it different. I'm not gonna think the same way. I'm not gonna behave the same way. I'm not gonna aim for the same goals. Like, oh, as long as I got this thing covered, as long as I got a bunch of zeros after that number in the bank account, we're
yeah.
good. It's like, it's just that doesn't work.
Well, it's about
So
necessity. They say necessity is the mother of all inventions. And so, what's going to necessitate people to grow their little food forests, to make their little communal currencies and community groups and things of that nature? It'll be necessity. It's just like the Spartan code. The Spartan's true strength is the man next to him.
yeah, yeah, yep. That's I talked to all my neighbors. The funny thing is, like, I put out a little pamphlet, a little, I don't know, a little door hanger, whatever you call it. And I don't have one with me right here, but it was about 4 months before the first shots were released, the first jabs were put out. And it's funny because where I was getting my information, usually InfoWars, and I had put out a little, hey, don't go do this. This is what's going to happen. Please don't do this. I actually handed out 800 of them. But I started at my house and I just went to every mailbox and I just handed them out into the mailboxes. And, it's kind of like, did anybody listen? Did anyone listen? And no, I know they didn't, because now I know the ones that have told me they've taken it and they're all, oh no, I know what it is now. And I'm like, yeah. And I don't even really bring up the fact that, hey, do you remember that piece of paper that you probably just threw away and laughed at anyway. So now I'm telling them, hey, grow food, get some sort of, equalizer in case the power grid goes off, because that's real. They keep talking about it. If they keep talking about it, they're going to do it. And I know you know that, and I know your audience knows that, but when you talk to your neighbors, they go, yeah, who said what? And it's like, no, trust me, listen, they've said the power grid's going to fail. They've said it multiple times. That means one way or another, we're going to experience no power. So, anyway.
Well,
Living
I
by
suppose in
example.
many ways we're all already experiencing having no power,
Yeah.
politically at the very least.
Yeah.
And the food prices and gas prices. Those are the two things that are going to really pinch people. Not to mention the rent prices. Basically, it's going to become so expensive to live. That everybody will have to get on a government benefit who make that money up out of nothing and loan it from the banks at interest. So ostensibly, the worse this crisis gets, the more of people's property and their lives are going to be owned by the private banks who work for the satanic pedophiles, who work for demons, who work for aliens. Whatever the scale of whoever you think is in charge here. But,
Yep.
but ultimately it comes to the same thing. The entirety of society will be destroyed. And it's only once things are destroyed, once the chaos can be ordered, that you really actually see the true change that you want to see. And of course, the old saying goes that there was once a man who tried to change the world, but the world was too big, so he failed. So he tried to change his country. That was too big also. Couldn't do it. So he tried to change his city. Same story. So he tried to change his family. Didn't work. If only he'd tried to change himself. His family would have seen his good example and helped him change the city. The country would have seen that and helped them change the world. It all starts within. So don't be worried, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not doing truth as much as you think you should, or you're not where you are supposed to be, or whatever. One little thing, doing it for yourself, by yourself, doesn't matter. All right, You are the one in charge of your destiny. You are the one who decides what you're doing right now. You even decide what you think. Okay? What thoughts are you putting into your head? What media are you absorbing? Is this making you happy? Is this making you radically more well-informed? Is this motivating you? Nay, is it inspiring you? Okay, a breath from within, not to respire in and out, but inspire, a constant outward flow of energy. That's what inspiration truly is, and that's what people should be trying to aim for in their life. And if you are not inspired by somebody, if you are not inspired by what it is you are doing, if it does not further progress you as a person and your work while you are here, you are wasting your time and everybody else's.
Absolutely. Those are inspired words, my friend.
I get that a lot.
Oh, it was great to jam with you for an hour, my friend. This was fun. We'll have to do this again where we kind of maybe I have more than 10 minutes of because I saw you friend request me earlier. And I was just like, oh, cool, out of the blue, all right, yeah, Vinny, I meant to talk to you a long time ago, and I just got busy and I haven't, but, I figured at some point it'll work its way out, and here you were. And then I just was like, hola, amigo, and you're like, so is that yes or no? And I'm like, oh, damn, there was a question. Shit. And then I was like, oh, damn, he wants me on his show tonight. Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And then you called me anyway, and I was like, all right, let's just do it.
Well, I had multiple cancellations and mix-ups and things like that. But thanks to Rebecca, who knows the One Great Work Network and stuff like that, which I haven't really looked into. I mean, I'm part of the network, but it's kind of like I'm part of the universe. I don't know all its corners.
Sure.
And so, yeah, whoever responds and that kind of thing gets in. And ultimately, some of the best things that ever happen in the world aren't planned, are they?
That's right. That's right. Seat of the pants and go with the flow. That's my life, man. I go with the flow because, I have plans and I like things, but I've just gotten less and less rigid on them because the whole, again, cliche, well, man makes plans and God laughs. And that's very real. And so it's best to just kind of, oh, well, that didn't work and go that way then because that's the way you're being shoved.
Yeah.
I found it works a lot better.
Yeah, well, the old saying goes, I think it was Sun Tzu who said this, that no plan has ever survived contact with the enemy. Roll with the punches, baby, if you want victory.
That's right. Bruce Lee said, be like water. It's the softest substance on earth, yet it can penetrate rock.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, penetrating rock, the rock-minded people out there. I mean, I came up with this term the other day, dumbasks. Somebody gives you crap about not wearing a mask, and you go, shut up, dumbask.
That's good.
I like it. It kind of rolls off the tongue.
Have masks come back in your area? Are people wearing them again?
Oh, they're wearing them everywhere. Try to go to a doctor without wearing a mask. Try to get an appointment anywhere. Try to get your hair cut without wearing a mask and stuff like that. It's like, it's not mandated, but the government said to all the employers, and things like that, you get to decide whether or not you want to force everybody to wear a mask all day long. And many employers and that kind of thing are just going like, yeah, this sounds like a really good idea. I want to keep everybody safe. I haven't done any research into whether or not, you can keep out mosquitoes with a chain link fence or anything like that. But this sounds like a really smart idea. Everybody needs microparticles. It's good for digestion.
Yeah. Microplastics deep in the lungs. That's yep.
Yeah. I mean, no, seriously. Have you ever had bad breath and things like that? You know why you've got bad breath is because you're breathing out bad bacteria and stuff like that. But anyway, we're not allowed to talk about any of this stuff because it's all medical misinformation. And I'm sorry. Yeah, wear the mask. Especially if it's got some kind of a gimp flair to it. I highly encourage masks on the show. Now, I'm joking, of course, but I'm not joking. Now, Peak, I've actually got some people to plug here, if you don't mind staying for a moment. Just going to share the screen. This puppy right here, I'm going to go on the screen. You can't really see it because it's all fading away and what have you. But the Peak Wealth and Wellness. This event is coming up at the what's it called? The Lone Star in New Lynn. This is where we had a previous counterspin event, and the guy who runs it, Brendan, he stood up against the mandates and everything like that, and still kept employing his people. And as a result, they took his business from him, and he's lost his home and everything like that. Just trying to keep his unjabbed staff in work. Brutal. And his lease ends on this week, and so this is going to be the last event that he's going to be able to host there for us. It's very, very sad, but hopefully everybody can get down there on the 25th of June. This is in New Zealand, of course. From 1:30 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. and you can look up that on eventbrite.co.nz. Peak Wealth and Wellness should get the search term available for you there. And we are talking about all sorts of different things, decentralization and how it's changing traditional finance systems forever, how cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance, what are known as DeFi, are the only visible way forward, and why few people really know about them, and all of these kind of unanswered questions about crypto and also about health are going to be covered by these 4 speakers here. So a lot of information to get in, and it's going to be nice and easy, ladies and gentlemen, because David Holden believes like I do, or believes like the science says, which makes it not belief, it's just knowledge. The brain can really only concentrate for between 45 minutes to an hour at peak efficiency. You start going over that, you start getting tired, you start making mistakes, you have to go back and correct those mistakes, you start getting grouchy, so on and so forth, when you should have just taken a break. So when these speakers speak for 45 minutes, the next 15 minutes is for snacks and drinks and things of that nature, so that you've got a chance to have a break in between the 4 speakers over a 4-hour period. And I said to him, David, that is brilliant. All right, because it's precisely how I would prefer to run the show as well. Have a 45-minute chat, take a 15-minute break, play some videos or something like that, and then come back. You can do a show all day like that. Yeah. But which reminds me, we've been concentrating for about 56 minutes at this point, and I still have other people that I need to sponsor. So Eventbrite, brite.co.nz /e/peak wealth wellness or whatever. In fact, I'm going to pop a link in the description here, guys, because we really do need some people to be coming down there. And it's only in a few days' time. Now, tomorrow's show, we may have David Holden, naturopath, on the show, and some of these people from the event to promote it. So hopefully you guys will tune in there. It's 11:33 a.m. local time. We are broadcasting live on the One Great Work Network, ladies and gentlemen. And you can see there the Vinny Eastwood, and we've got all the creators on here as well. Let me see if we can go find We can go find Wright. Where are you? There you are, Jonathan Wright. Yep. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan's on there, along with lots of other really great creators. So yeah, and Larkin Rose. I need to get Larkin Rose on the show, man. I've known of him since like the days of Aaron Russo's From Freedom to Fascism. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's cool the old school people that are actually still doing it. Speaking of people who are doing it, peopleforpeople.ning.com have just picked up the show. So you can go to peopleforpeople.ning.com and sign up with an account, and it's basically a private network. So you actually have to sign in. You have to have an account in order to be listening to it or on it for that matter. And the guy in Scotland is running that, and he's got like Dr. Rima Labo shows on there, Billy TK's, and now mine as well. So it's always very good. Maybe chuck them a donation if you can. Speaking of other people we need to chuck donations to, in the archives page of thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, the lovely Julia has been putting up all these shows and everything like that very, very quickly. We're doing lots more shows down, and I'm sorry, Julia. It's a lot of work. I know that it is, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to say sorry two times. In fact, now 3 times. Sorry. But if you go to the archives page on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and click Show Archives, and then on any one of the archives down the bottom it says please support Julia's archiving work. So you can donate through PayPal, and you can also start up monthly and weekly payments, become a Patreon of hers, and you can also donate into her Kiwi Bank as well if you're a New Zealand listener. So hopefully you guys can support the archiving efforts. Our other sponsor, as you can see in the logo above me, is reopen.nz, a directory of anti-mandate, pro-choice, all-inclusive businesses in New Zealand. And a lot of businesses around the country have been adding their 2 cents into this little debate about whether or not we should have all of these so-called pandemic measures and whatnot. Now, what we could do, ladies and gentlemen, I was just thinking about this as well, is you can go to reopen.nz and you can just search for your town. Well, let's say it's Command F Auckland, and there are 42 Auckland businesses here. All right, and that's our New Zealand's largest city that I live in. And what if, when you wanted to go get something, you actually went to reopen.nz and you looked for the businesses that you would rather frequent because of their stance, that kind of thing. But bear in mind, of course, due to my bail conditions from getting busted like in August 18th, I think it was, last year, the Vinny Eastwood Show does not endorse the breaching of COVID-19 rules. Now, integrative holistic care is available at holdenhealthcare.com, emphasis on the care. David Holden, who's, of course, hosting that event coming up this weekend in New Zealand, is a naturopathic oncologist with over 30 years experience in the field, and his team has over 100 years combined experience that they bring to the table, and they work with you and get to know you so they can actually get your body to heal itself with the right supplements and that kind of thing. He's a specialist in naturopathic oncology and hard to treat cases. So if you've had the big C word and you haven't been getting terribly great results with the mainstream medicine equivalents of chemo that kill 97% of the people who take it, and then the other 3% a little over 5 years later, then please think about going to holdenhealthcare.com, emphasis on the care. There's a medical disclaimer on the website there as well. And of course, lastly, myself, the VinnyEastwoodShow.com has been running for many years, and do need to remind people that the only reason why the show has existed all this time is because of you, the wonderful people who donate and support the show with your automatic payments. You can support us through PayPal, Kiwi Bank, and you can also support our band, Vinny and the Vendettas, through Patreon. It gives us a nice little monthly payment every month. All right, so if you have donated, of course, already, make sure to go to that donate page on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and click here for special rewards down the bottom of the page. And if you have done all that, all my contact details are on there so that you can request a guest, have a private call with me, and get my help with your media project or idea if you want. And you also get access to the secret Vinny Eastwood Donors Club on Facebook. And that is basically the length and breadth of it. Am I forgetting something? Yes. My guest, Jonathan Wright. Can you please give us, of course, just before we wrap up the show, where can people find you and, go off on a tangent if you feel like it, and just, plug yourself and where people can find you and absorb your great creative works and whatnot.
Cool. Well, thank you. I really did enjoy being on your show, Vinny. And so you can find my work at nothingnewunderthesun.us. That's my website. And scroll down, and all my social media is contained there in a little cluster. You can go to One Great Work Network, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and YouTube. And YouTube, not so much. They censor everything, and I don't have most of my stuff there. Most of my stuff, all of my stuff, really is at Odyssey. That's my main page. That's where I have never been censored from. And so pretty much what's on Odyssey is also at One Great Work Network. And like I said, if you look into my stuff, I've been doing this for about 9 or 10 months now, and so you'll see quite a variety of topics and areas that I cover. And I had a podcast for about 4 months, and I took a break from it for a little while. I will be bringing that back at some point. And so there's a good amount of things that you can listen to me tangent about throughout my website. So
Yeah, the Tangent Tangerine.
yeah, Tangerine Dream.
Yes, the 60s acid, the good stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, Yellow Sunshine.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the Grateful Dead, they actually weren't always called the Grateful Dead. And
They were the Warlocks first.
really, because I thought that they had they changed their name after their one of their band members died in a car accident. They were all in a car accident. One of their band members didn't survive it, and up until that point, they weren't the Grateful Dead. They were still grateful to be alive, but. I've got a dark humor.
Hey, that's fine because I'm not a big I don't know, I'm not a big Deadhead, so that's cool. The humor goes appreciated by me.
One can only hope. And you know, one last little inspiration and stuff like that for people that I try to do every show, but I don't normally do it. So if you've listened to the show before, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's coming, and maybe listen to it again, or maybe tune off, or go and donate instead. Now, why am I just adjusting everything? I was perfectly fine. So. This American hosts one time, they asked me a question on the show. I think I was on their show. And they go to me, "So Vinny, is the earth flat or is it round? Give it to us straight." And I was like, "Well, I think it's a holographic fractal projection of collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively." And they were like, "Whoa." Now, it sounds complicated, and it is, but it's not really all that complex. You know, first layer of reality is the hologram. You know, you ever say that energy can never be destroyed, it only transfers? You know, particles of wood become particles of smoke. That's kind of how a hologram works. If we take a picture of a screenshot of what we're doing right now, and we put it in a hologram instead of a hard drive, and then try to delete that picture, the whole picture will still be there, except it'll just be half the resolution. Try to delete it again, same thing. All right? So that's how the universe really works. Nothing that's ever really created or manifested into it can ever truly be forgotten or ever truly be destroyed. And the second layer is the fractal, is that if you look inside your finger, you'll find a cell. And if you look further inside that cell, you'll find it's made up of all these other cells. You look inside one of them, it's made up of all these others. And so on and so forth, infinitely down the chain and infinitely up, as above, so below. And so that means that we're like a cell on this planet. And this planet is like a cell in this galaxy. The galaxy a cell in the universe a mere cell in a much larger organism that we don't even have a concept for yet. So everything is just a larger or smaller version of something else. Nothing can be forgotten. Everything's larger or smaller. And this is where collective consciousness comes into. This is what's creating all of this. These guys did this thing called a double slit experiment, where they had two metal slots and a proton gun, and they would shoot the proton through the slot with a little bit of aluminium foil behind, and they'd figure out how that particle would explode, and then that kind of thing. What they thought would happen is it would go bang, bang, and then they'd figure out how that particle shattered on the backboard. But it didn't. It went bang, turned into a waveform, and dented it in like a ripple effect. And they're like, "Man, that's very interesting. Why don't we put a little camera in there when it goes in the slot, and we'll see how that works." Put the camera down there, fire the gun again, bang, bang. The particle changed how it acted because it knew that it was being observed. It got stage fright. That means that that little proton had consciousness. And if a proton has consciousness, that means everything has consciousness. Protons, neutrons, electrons, morons, all of them. And This is how we look into it, is that all of those creative things, everything is creating this reality as we see it, simultaneously. Simultaneous creation. You, me, everybody, right? So where are you? And what's your significance in this holographic fractal projection of collective consciousness? Well, you're experiencing it subjectively. You're you, I'm me. And we are what's known as a fifth dimensional consciousness being, which means first dimension's a dot, second dimension's a line, third dimension's a box, and the fourth dimension is that box being affected by time. And the fifth dimension is where all our thoughts are. They don't really exist, and they don't really benefit anybody, our thoughts do not, until we spend our fourth dimensional time on them and will them into the three-dimensional universe where they can be seen, heard, tasted, and touched by other conscious beings who will see that, trigger their own ideas. And that is what you are here to do. You are here to manifest your thoughts into reality, to create them, to inspire others down the chain, because every inspiration that you do affects the entire collective consciousness, the entire fractal, every infinite civilization within you, or infinite civilization that you are a part of, every act, every thought that is brought and manifest and worked on has the potential to change all of it, just a little bit. And those people who have made movies have seen movies before. Those people who make music have heard music before. Who knows who might be inspired by your works that otherwise wouldn't, when you sat there not creating what was in your head and becoming resentful of those who do. As the Greeks said, your job in life is to plant a tree whose shade you know you shall never get to sit beneath.
Very cool. Very cool.
Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Cheers, Jonathan. Awesome,
Cheers,
brother.
my friend. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, and we should do this again, like I said, with a topic in mind. But this was fantastic. Rolling with the punches and going with the flow.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, Vinny. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, well, I'm a cannabis user. That's just how I roll. Now.
Me too.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, slaves of the global plantation.
The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. I mean, seriously, they're just awful.